a pretty small amount of your fondant to cover it, and it's much easier if you don't have way too much, because if you roll out tons and tons, then you have this big huge thing. It makes it much more difficult. So how are we going to know how much we need for this? This is 6-inch dummy, 2 inches high. How much are we going to need?
8.
We're going to need 8?
No.
No,
10.
why not?
10.
6 inches across, 2 inches high. 10, thank you. 10 inches diameter in the smallest part, and we need it to be a circle. So circle, important for this time. I'm going to try it with 200 grams of fondant, and we'll see if that is a good amount for you guys. Okay, so this is a little over 200. That's about 200. First step with the fondant, just like the last time, is that you need to, obviously you need to make it smooth with your hands. Even if it's a nice round shape to start with, you still gotta like make it nice and smooth. My fondant is cold from the fridge. I should just use some of yours. But so it's taking me a little bit longer. All that crusty, cracky part of it needs to be kind of fixed before you start rolling it. And just like last time, it shouldn't be too cold, but it also shouldn't be warm. If it's warm, it's gonna stick and make your life hard that way. Then you need to make it into a nice circle, just like last time you made it into a square, just like when we did pie dough, we made it into a circle in order to get a nice circle outcome. Can you see everything? Yeah. So, just like last time, icing sugar underneath and on top. Exactly like pie, rolling a little bit one way, a little bit the opposite, and the same amount on each diagonal. One way, the other way, diagonal, diagonal. How can I tell if it's sticking? I could tell it was sticking when I was rolling it. I could tell because it doesn't grow in the same way as when it's not sticking. Also a really good idea to keep moving it around. And I already put shortening on my dummy yesterday, but you guys would need to remember to do that first. Last time some of you didn't, then you had to spend time going to do that. All that time your fondant was drying out, so it's making your life more difficult. So 10 inches, it's a little over 10 inches on this side. Here it's around 10 inches. Here it's over 10 inches. Here it's over 10 inches. If you measure various spots, you can be sure that you've got enough. And this one is only really little, so it's the easiest kind. Because it's small, makes your life better. Once you get to do the really tall ones, it's much harder. Did I get enough? Yeah. So, same as with your square one, Chris, watch. You're gonna need my help later. I might not want to give it if you're sitting on your phone while I'm demonstrating. Same as before, get all the air bubbles out of the top. But the part that people find hard is the draping part. Getting this to have no folds. What people always want to do is go all the way down on one side, but then they have all these extra folds and they don't know what to do with them.
Cut it.
No, we're not going to cut it. There is a way to do this. What you have to do is do a little bit at a time. So you do the top edge, then you go down a little bit more, all around. Every time you flare out these creases so that you cannot have any lines on your finished product. So you're going to open up the folds. Instead of folding them down hard, you got to open them up. So we're going to end up with no folds in the finished product of this. That's what your goal is to do when you do it, so not have any folds. Opening them up and smoothing it down a little at a time until we get all the way to the bottom. So we cannot do one side and then the other side. We have to do it a bit at a time until we get all the way to the bottom without any folds. That is the tricky part about covering a round cake and fondant. It's much easier when it's a short cake like this. It's not really tall. The ones that are really hard are the ones that are tall like a tall giant cylinder. Those are deadly. Once you get to the bottom, you can breathe a sigh of relief and smooth it off a little bit, all the way around with no folds. Again, it's easier to trim the fondant on the cutting board than up there. I like to do a rough cut first with whatever utensil, like a spatula is fine, scraper is really good. Cut off the excess, and then I'm gonna neaten it up afterwards. Just by pressing it in, like you did with the other cake. So I can just go like this with my spatula and press it in to make it neat and tidy. This will be the base of everybody's cake design. No matter what design you choose, you will have a base like this. Other than that, you're going to be doing whatever it is that you need to do, and you're going to need to look up some ideas on YouTube and things. If you have to make something like, say you wanted to make a fire hydrant out of fondant. Like, no one knows how to do that, you guys. No one knows. So you have to look it up, research it, and figure out how to do it. Yes, and I can't do it for you every time, so you're going to be doing some independent research. Other thing is, please, you're going to be really, really carefully keeping track of your fondant, keeping all your odds and ends together, keeping it nice and moist, and keeping it wrapped at all times is the goal for this. So tomorrow when you come in, if you have a laptop yourself or any kind of computer, it would be great if you could bring that, because we're going to be planning. I have iPads, obviously. You can also print off your ideas if you don't want to sketch it, but I don't have computer options for tomorrow, so you'll have to either sketch it on your plan or else print it off.
Yes.
Then you're going to get started doing this and all the other things that you need to do, including coloring your fondant, which I'll remind you about next time. Everybody good?
Yeah.
Good.